Hey, all right. Welcome back to day two of Make It Manifest, my personal workshop where I show you all of the tools that I use that has worked phenomenally in terms of manifesting. Now, yesterday was day one, and we really broke down the concept of manifestation, which we now know and fully understand that manifestations are, yes, a desire that we have and we want to experience in its fullest form. Okay, we want to experience it tangibly. We want to hear it, smell it, taste it, and touch it. Any and all of those things. However, we also fully now understand the concept that as soon as we have a desire, that that is an indication, that is confirmation that what we desire already exists, not just exists out in the world, it exists within us. So, what that means is we have sole responsibility of lining up with that which we want. Yesterday, we spoke heavily about frequency because everything vibrates, including the manifestations that we want. And so we need to vibrate at the same frequency as our manifestation. As one of my favorite mentors, Abraham Hicks, likes to say, you cannot be on one radio station, right? We can't be on FM and hear what's on AM, right? If we want to hear what's on AM, we actually need to change the frequency. And it's a really great example because that is exactly how we listen to anything on the radio. It's by frequency. So every time you change the dial on your radio, you change the station, it is on a different frequency. And the satellites and antennas and all these things, they pick up that vibration. So it matches it so that we can actually hear what's happening on that station, right? And what we want to be mindful of is the journey of getting there. Sometimes in the middle of that journey, we might get a little fuzzy sounds or we might see a little static, okay? But that doesn't mean that we can't get to the destination. All it means is that we are still working towards lining up our frequency to that which we want to experience. Okay, so today is day two. For day two, we are bridging what we learned yesterday, right, with application, what we actually need to do. Here we go. In order to have our manifestation in its fullest form and experience, right? So, day two, the bridge, application, and how to make it manifest, and not just make it manifest, but make it manifest faster. You see, I am doing this workshop because I want to remove the barriers and the mistakes from your journey that I've already made in this process. I have been working on manifestations for the last 15 years. I learned a lot. And at this point, in actually being able to manifest many of the things that I wrote down in my journal, that I've made audio recordings about, and it's showing up in my reality, I said, wow, this thing actually does work. And right. And that's after I already went through tons of processes or experiences where it did not seem like it was working or that manifestations were fake. Like, this is just a concept that's for certain people. It's definitely not for me. I don't get it. I can't get it. I went through all of those hurdles only to find that there was one thing missing. And that one thing we spoke about yesterday. And that one thing was subconscious reprogramming. And we talked a lot about the parts of the mind, right? There's two parts of the mind that we're going to discuss or we're going to continue the conversation around. One being the conscious mind. The conscious mind is where we experience the idea of a manifestation, right? We experience the desire in itself, right? The conscious mind experience what's called the waking world or real life or reality. If we see something that we like a house, like a car, or even a person, or even where we'd like to vacation, right? We notice that a desire is born within us. We want this thing, we want to experience this thing, right? And then what happens is that once a day, at least once a day, we go into the unconscious mind. And this is our dream world. This is where we sleep. During sleep and during a very relaxed state. So, not only does this take place in the sleep world, but also this takes place during meditation. This is where our subconscious mind comes in, and it is responsible for expressing all of the things that we experienced in the conscious world. It's responsible for assisting in bringing that into our reality for us to experience it. So this is twofold, because yesterday we also spoke about the two things that happens when we have a desire. There's 6 questions, right? It's what we want, why we want it, how it's going to get to us, when it's going to get to us, where it's coming from, who, what, where, oh, and who's bringing it, right? Who are the vessels? Who are the partnerships, the collaborations? Who are they that needs to happen to help us to manifest in our fullest form? And there's always someone. There's always someone. There's always a who. Nonetheless, there's only two of those questions that we're actually responsible for answering. And that's the what we want and why we want it. Everything else, it is up to the mechanics of the universe to help to conspire to bring our manifestation to us. It decides when, who, where, all of those nuances. It got us. And that's a great thing that we don't have to figure out everything, right? Think about a time where you wanted something and immediately you were blocked by figuring out how it was going to get to you because you didn't know how, because you didn't know when, because you didn't know where or who was going to help you to bring this thing into its fullest form. Well, this is the thing, y'all. There's actually nothing to figure out. And it's so interesting because these are phrases that we utilize all the time. It's like, oh, I have to figure this thing out, or I don't know how I'm going to figure out how I'm going to. As soon as you say, I don't know how I'm figure out how, it's not even your job to figure out how, right? Remember this. Our job is to know what we want and why we want it. What is it? To know what we want and why we want it. The who, the how, the when, the where is the universe's job. We gotta relax and let them do the job, right? We don't start working in a space and we hold one title and position and we start doing our manager's job and we start doing the CEO's job. If you're not the CEO, you're not doing the CEO's job. If you're not the manager, you're not doing the manager's job, right? So we need to relax into our roles. We need to do our job and take care of our responsibilities. That's to know what we want and why we want it. Now, once we figure those two things out, which is very simple because a lot of times we don't even have to be intentional about that, because we're made up of vibration. We see something and something already vibrates within us. There's already some sort of passion, excitement, something that's ignited like a spark inside of us that is already taking care of the frequency for us, right? In the at least in the initial moment. Then we have the responsibility of ensuring that we can now step into the identity and the version of ourselves who's going to receive that manifestation. This is important. So, a part of that is subconscious reprogramming and also embodying all of the versions, the things that is going to allow us to be the person who receives the manifestation. Yesterday, I gave an example of lottery winners. 80% or more of lottery winners win mega millions, I mean, several millions of dollars, only to lose it within a couple years because they never stepped into the new version of themselves. They were able to actually manifest this thing, right? Their lottery winners are usually pretty persistent, right? It's very rare that someone plays the lotto for the first time and then wins these mega millions. There's people who play lotto all the time, and maybe it's not even mega millions. Sometimes people easily can win 500, $1,000, even $100. Either way, these are people who understand the concept of lotto. They play the lottery very frequently and they're able to manifest results, likely results or favorable outcomes, right? Very auspicious results. Now, That does not mean that they're able to hold on to their winnings long term. So we might be masterful manifestors of something that we actually desire and bring that thing into our reality. But when we don't step into the version of ourselves that knows how to manage that money, we lose it. Okay, so this is why a majority of lotto winners lose their earnings or their winnings almost as fast as they gain them. Okay, so it's really important that we are embodying the versions of ourselves that is going to accept and receive our manifestation when it comes. And if we want it to stay, we need to know how to make it stay. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about now how we're going to begin and start this subconscious reprogramming. So I need you to do me a favor. I need you to grab a notebook and a pen, specifically the one that you had yesterday during the workshop. And also, if you need to, make sure you have some water. We're going to be here together for some time. By the way, I think this is really cool to mention. Like, these things, do you know how highly sought out these Stanley Cups are? Drop a like for me, or a comment in the comment box if you have a Stanley, if you want a Stanley, or if you know how sought out these things are. Like, Stanleys are a big trend right now. Do you know that I manifested this for free? For free. I manifested this bad boy. I thought about a Stanley. I said, wow, it'll be great to have a water cup like a Stanley, so that I don't have to keep filling my water bottle up a few times a day. I just want to be able to drink 1 to 2 large, a couple liters of water a day without having to refill it several times a day. And I saw Stanley, and I was like, oh, that's that cup that everybody loves. And to be honest with you, I was like, I don't know how I even feel about it, because I don't even know how this works, y'all. I gotta actually check it out. But I'm just like, the straw is exposed all the time. Like, it doesn't have a cover. I don't know how I feel about that. And then I start to think about how I've seen them in people's cars before, right? It even has like the perfect dimensions for this to sit in your cup holder in your car. And I've seen it in people's cars before, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess if you're not necessarily walking around everywhere with it or putting it in a bag, it doesn't matter about the whole straw thing. So I literally spent some time in my mind thinking about this Stanley Cup, okay? And then guess what? In doing that, in spending time envisioning a Stanley mug like this or a Stanley Cup like this, thinking about the times that I've seen it, thinking about the times that I've seen it in people's cars, thinking about the times, even just thinking about having one for myself. And then I said, would I purchase that? Not right now. And then I let it go. Lo and behold, I kid you not, the following week, one of the members in my gym, she comes up to me and she's like, hey, I have this Stanley Cup. I have a few of them. I don't need another one. I got one as a gift, and I thought about you. I'm wondering if you want it. She thought about me. Out of all of the people that she knows, she thought about me and this cup, and if I would want it. Remember when I told you we don't need to figure out the how, the when, the where, the who? Good evening, Phyllis. I see you into the room. Welcome, love. Remember I told you the 4 responsibilities that's not ours, it's the universe's job? Yeah. Even something as simple as this, I need you to understand, because we're masterful manifestors, we manifest every single day. We're manifesting all the time. It's just these large things that we don't, or perceivingly so, the larger things that we don't know how to get to. right? Like we're not sure of how to figure it out, that we get stuck. But we are masterful manifestors. We're manifesting every single day anyway. And I kid you not, just by acknowledging a desire. I saw this cup. It feels like such a subtle desire. It wasn't even big, right? It's nothing big because it doesn't matter. We're manifesting small and large things all the time. Small and large is relative. It's relative. So we get to decide whether something is small and large. Remember the example I gave yesterday. $5 can seem like a little money to a wealthy person, but a lot of money to a person whose bank account is in overdraft, right? So small and large is relative. And this is something to be mindful of as we are reprogramming our subconscious mind. Okay, so I saw this cup. I took time to even visualize the times that I've seen it before, visualize how I would feel about it, visualize it in my backpack to notice that I don't know if I even want this thing, to be honest with you. And then an offer came across the table where I got to say yes or no to it. Okay, obviously I said yes to the Stanley Cup. Okay, so I want to be clear on the techniques that brings manifestations into your reality, and fast, right? Fast. Thought about it one week and it came in the next week, right? Same thing. I've had the same thing happen with a couple of $1,000 just last month where I was down and out and I couldn't figure out where I was going to get a certain amount of money from that I desired, right? Within 2 weeks, it showed up, okay, utilizing these tools. So I'm emphasizing this because it is so important not to block ourselves from the not knowing how to figure out the parts of the process that doesn't even belong to us. The who, the where, the when, and the how is the universe's job. Our only job is to know what our desire is and why we want it. And then we let the rest come to us. We let the universe do its job. It conspires to bring all of the components together to get us what we asked for every time. Every time. So, identity shift. I have a few questions for you. First question is, with the manifestation that you wrote down yesterday, the one that we're going to focus on in particular, who must you become that is going to receive this manifestation? It is very likely that there is some part or a version of you that needs to shift in order to receive your manifestation in a likely time frame that feels more favorable to you. Okay, because the only separation in the gap is frequency, is how fast we're able to line up with that manifestation. So it's not how fast the manifestation is actually coming to you as much as it is of how fast we're lining up with the frequency of the manifestation. Who must you become? So I worked in retail for over 10 years. I was talking about this yesterday, that it was a time frame that I was actually I consider myself very prosperous for the position of retail that I was working in, but there was so many other parts of my life that I was unhappy with, especially with my health, because I was making as much money as I was making at the time because I was spending a lot of time at work. Okay. Not just the 9 hours or the 40 hours a week that was required, but we also had to factor in the commute to and fro work. And then also how much time I spent thinking and dreading about work while I was at home. Okay. So we only have 24 hours in a day. It's so important that we are taking time to actually step into this version of ourselves of who we want to be. So when I noticed that I wanted to be healthier, right? I now needed to step into another version of myself, the version that didn't make excuses about finding time to work out, or a version of myself that believed that I can find time to work out, a version of myself that would actually sign up for a gym or to do workouts at home or to look at my nutrition, right? So, all of these things actually led me to becoming a fitness instructor and a personal trainer. Okay, that's how most of my community knows me. It's actually through fitness. And it just dawned on me one day. It's like, well, why don't you just work in this industry then? If it's that important to you, right? Like, of course you don't have to do that, but that's actually how important it was to me. I thought that would actually make a lot of sense. Like, okay, I could just work in a gym then. I could become a personal trainer or fitness instructor. But I had to step into this version of myself. So I was already unhappy. I was overweight. I was eating whatever at this point, whatever was convenient because I didn't quote unquote have time, right? Those things needed to begin to shift. Okay. So, who must you become for the manifestation that you want? Bullet point number 2 asks, what does that version of you believe? Right. So, for me, before I finally stepped into taking better care of my health, especially my physical fitness, I believed that I didn't have enough time. Now, that's not even words that I'd ever utter anymore at this point of my fitness journey. It is so important to me to ensure that I find time within my day to do any kind of workout. So, the concepts that I had before, that I needed at least an hour to 2 hours to work out, that I needed a gym membership, all of these things was a version of myself that no longer could align with me, because those things would always hold me back from getting to my goal. I can't be a person that doesn't have time to work out and work out. We have to shift these small, seemingly small things. They're actually really big things that are blocking your blessings. What does the version of you currently believe about yourself that might be blocking this manifestation? Because that has to shift. So, if something comes up for you right now, even if it's just one thing, I'd like for you to write it down. What does that version of you believe? That it's really hard to achieve what you want, that the economy is bad so you can't do it. What is blocking you? What beliefs will not serve the version of you who receives your manifestation and helps you to align with that frequency quickly? What other people are experiencing out in the world is not your experience. Mainly because they're not in this conversation with us. Most people do not know how to intentionally manifest. The average person, not most. The average person is not going to do that. They don't know. So now that we're aware, we know. It's really important that we're not uttering the same words that we hear on the news, the same words that we're hearing our neighbors say and that they believe. So even sometimes, as a fitness trainer, I work inside of a gym as well, right? And I just had a conversation with someone today who believed that after the age of 40, that it's almost impossible to lose 20 pounds. This is her experience. However, for a person who wants to lose 20 pounds, it does not serve the version of you who lost, or the version of them who loses 20 pounds, that it is hard to do it. Manifestations get done or they don't. There's no gray area in that. They either come or they don't come. And that's because we either line up with it or we don't line up with it. I personally know several people who are in their 70s and even in their 80s who were able to achieve their fitness goals. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that challenges doesn't come up on our way to the manifestation. But remember what we talked about yesterday. As a part of manifesting, we have to be steadfast in our faith that this thing is coming to us no matter what. Doesn't matter what challenges come up. The challenges are irrelevant. So there's no point in rehearsing with ourselves and our mind. Because remember, in our conscious and waking world, what we're experiencing, what we're telling ourselves, what we're telling others, what we're hearing from others, and accepting is being impressed in our mind all the way down to the subconscious level, which is responsible for expressing our frequency and our alignment with reality. So if we believe that it's too hard, the economy is bad, we're blocked because of our any type of demographics, our race, our age, our gender. If we continue with this narrative, of course it's going to be hard. That is alignment. That's harmony. If you think it's hard, it's going to be hard. That's harmony. Remember, I said that as well. Harmony is not only looked at as good. You are harmonizing with what you believe. Our beliefs live in the subconscious mind, which is responsible for expressing truth, our truth, not real truth. The universe says you can have whatever you want. You just got to line up with it. That's real truth. We all have our own truths, though, based on our experiences. What we tell ourselves is what we believe to be true. So again, I ask, what does that version of you believe? What's blocking you? And now we get to think about our future selves. What does the future self believe? What is your future self of your manifestation for your manifestation? What does he or she believe? Or they? What do they believe? We need to write this down. Writing is a unique tool to the human species, and it is a very important component to manifestation. What you write can also become reality. So, what does the future version of yourself now believe about your manifestation? Just one thing. Okay. What is no longer aligned with that identity? So, if we think something is hard, it might be a really big jump to now say, well, it's actually easy to manifest this thing. That's not what we're doing here. We're not going to make believe or make up something that we actually don't feel or we don't think, because thinking and feeling are two major components of manifestation. So if you don't believe that to be true, and if you don't feel that to be true, there's no use of writing that. Okay. But maybe I'm beginning to believe that is not as hard as I used to think. Past tense, right? What is no longer aligned with your future self's identity in regards to your manifestation. So, whatever was blocking you, we want to reframe that thought so that we can shift our identity. I'm beginning to believe that it's not as hard as I thought. I'm beginning to believe that it's possible to still manifest what I want despite what's happening in the economy. I'm beginning to believe that I am the perfect and ideal person to of call in my manifestation despite my race, despite my age, despite my gender, whatever it is. Okay. We're embodying our future self now. We don't wait to get to the future. The future is now because there's past, present, and tense, but we're always in the now. We're always in the now. So every second is turning into the past. But regardless, in the waking world, in our conscious world, when we're here with intention, we're present. So we're always in the now. So the future is now. We get to fully live there now. When I think about going on vacation, and a thought that just came to me right now is being on the beach in Puerto Rico. And I can go to Puerto Rico in my mind in this very moment. I could see the water. I could feel the sand beneath my feet. I can hear the ocean waves, right? I could hear the breeze in the palm trees. I don't need to actually be there physically in this moment to experience it. Past, present, and future is under the law of mentalism. We think, so we create. Okay, as above, so below. As above, here in the mind, so below in our hands, where we can experience it tangibly, where you could pick up the sand, where you could feel the water, where you could smell the salt water, right? Where you could hear the leaves in the palm trees. As above, so below. So we want to embody our future self now. Next, still underneath subconscious programming. Now, I'm going to give you a few of my favorite identity shifting tools. So the first one is identity statements. Identity statements that are actually believable. One of the biggest mistakes I made during my early days in the manifestation process was making a large jump from where I currently was, either in fear, lack, worry, doubt, right? Or I just simply didn't believe it. Like, if I want $1 million, that seems like a lot of money, right? Relative, a lot of money that I have not had before, right? Haven't experienced how to get it, where to get it, who to connect with. Again, worrying about all of the things that I wasn't even responsible for. All of these things created doubt, worry, fear, lack, and ultimately resistance. So it felt like a lie to now say, well, I'm going to step into the future self right now and I am a millionaire. I could say it, but I didn't believe it. There was no emotion behind it. There was no visualization behind it. There was no inner truth behind that. And what is a manifestation? It's an inner intention, it's an inner truth. So it made complete sense of why I was unable to get there at the time. So here is a bridge to that gap. Identity statements that has worked really well for me in starting to believe these things to be true and feel truer to me was now saying, I am becoming. I am becoming the person who, right? And then I would write something very specific after these three words. I am becoming is one phrase, but I just used one in a previous example, right? Which was, I am beginning. I am is a power statement. Anytime you use those two words, I am, or if you combine them, the I'm, anything that comes after that has to be true for you. Whether you say, I am prosperous or I am poor, they're one and the same. Either way, that is what you're going to experience because that's what you're impressing on your mind. That has to be your truth. You get to choose your truth. So instead of taking such a large jump and a large gap to something that over a large gap that doesn't actually feel real yet. You want to find something softer, something more attainable, something more achievable. I am becoming, or I am beginning to. Now, the words that comes after these statements, I'd highly recommend that they're specific. So this was another mistake that I made very early on, especially when I learned about affirmations. It was just like, I am wealthy. Okay. That felt like a very large jump for what I also expressed yesterday when I was giving you the example of the checks that I wrote out from The Secret, right? But then looking at my wallet, looking at my bank account, and then utilizing phrases that I've heard all my life growing up in my home would say the complete opposite. So it was very hard to believe. And also, it was too general. I am wealthy felt like a forced statement. So it's not enough to just say, I am a homeowner, I am a landowner, I am a car owner, I have a great spouse. These are very general statements. We want to become more specific. So instead of saying something like, I am wealthy, I would use a identity statement like, I am becoming the version of me who manages money with confidence. I am becoming someone who naturally attracts aligned opportunities. These are statements that I actually use and that has actually helped me to start to call in more money because money is simply a frequency. That's it. Made it a bigger thing than it was all of my life, right? Because I was in a space of lack and scarcity. However, when I jumped out of that frequency and started to bridge the gap with something that felt more truer, I started to become and act like the version of myself who is a wealthy person. And so I want us to take a moment. This is a workshop. So I want us to actively work towards our manifestation in this moment. Okay. So you're going to write down anywhere between 5 to 10 identity statements for the manifestation that you wrote down yesterday or in day one. And if any of you were not here yesterday for day one, you're choosing one manifestation that you would like to work towards immediately. Okay. And we're going to write down identity statements that align us with that manifestation. So you want to use statements like I am becoming or I am beginning to. I am becoming or I am beginning to. So let's take the next 90 seconds to do so. I am becoming, I am beginning to. And I'll even give a few more of the ones that I have wrote down for myself, right? So I know I used the example of money, prosperity specifically. So for me, it was I am becoming the person who seeks out opportunities to reinvest my money at least 2 times before spending $1. So I'm doubling my money. It's basically what I'm saying, right? The next one is I am becoming the person who obtains more information about investing. I am becoming the person who seeks out a mentor for financial advice. I am beginning to hang around more investors and wealthy people. I am beginning to watch more content on how to multiply my money. I am becoming the person who is conscious of the way she speaks about her relationship with money. This one was a big one for me. Remember, yesterday I shared that a statement that we used to say with a badge of honor around my house, in my neighborhood, with my friends is I'm broke. Remember those words. I'm or I am is a power statement, and anything that follows it has to be true for me and then true for you. Another one of mine was, and feel free to steal any of these if it works for you, for those of you who are focused on becoming more prosperous and stepping into that version of yourself. I am becoming the person who manages money with confidence. I am becoming the person who makes wise investments. I am becoming the person who attracts aligned opportunities to reinvest my money. And this one is actually my favorite because it's a quantum leap statement. This one allows me to see my manifestation from the end. I am the person who makes wise. I am becoming the person who gives financial advice. I am becoming the person who gives financial advice. Now, this one is seen from the end, as I said, because how else can I give someone financial advice unless I know how to do it myself? Or unless I've done it for myself, right? It's the same thing for me with fitness, right? I'm not just becoming the person who gives good fitness advice. I am the person who gives people the utmost value in regards to fitness and their health. So that means when I attract a person who comes and asks me about money or about fitness or about health, that I have some expertise and some experience in what they're asking me about, right? Because the universe just helped to conspire with who approaches me with an opportunity for me to be able to provide this value. So we want to be able to shift our identity as such so that we see it from the end. Now, these identity statements, it signals gradual but inevitable evolution. Gradual but inevitable evolution. No matter what, y'all, if you're doing these things, your manifestation has to come. It's law. It is literally designed that way. Once again, we manifest every single day. It's just some things seems further and taking more time to manifest than others. So, doing these identity statements signals to the subconscious mind that we are making gradual steps, but inevitable steps towards our manifestation. This allows the subconscious also to relax because it's not such a drastic leap anymore. It feels believable and it feels doable. Now that you have your 5 to 10 identity statements, we're going to move on to future self embodiment exercises. What's future self embodiment exercises? Well, you mentally and sometimes physically need to step into the identity of your manifested future self. Mentally and physically, Actually, you need to step into the identity of your manifested future self. So this includes future self journaling. As I said a few times already during this workshop, writing is a very unique tool to the human species for a reason. We have the ability to write over every other species that walks this planet intelligently, okay? Writes intelligently. And so when you're journaling, going forward, you're not just journaling your manifestations as desires of what you want or what you need. You're speaking from the end in your future self, the same way I just gave the example of I am becoming the person that gives financial advice. Well, as my future self, I'm a person who gives financial advice. And I am. I have manifested an amazing opportunity to work with Disruptor DAO. Some of you know me from Disruptor DAO, some of you don't. Some of you have no idea what a DAO is, much less a Disruptor DAO. But this is an autonomous organization. It's decentralized autonomous organization that whose mission is to close the wealth gap, because currently what's been observed is that there is a large gap in wealth based on the demographics in this country. And so our mission is to help people to close that, right? So my in my scripting for my manifestation of being able to manage my money with more confidence, for seeking out more into opportunities on how to invest and reinvest my dollars, multiply my dollars, I came across an organization who helps people of specifically people of color to do this. How did I do that? I didn't Google this. This is not an action that I intentionally started to Google out and find Disruptor DAO in particular. How did this happen? The universe decided to help me. The universe said, I'm going to allow your sister to make you an opportunity that you get to say yes to. So my sister brought me to an event where we didn't know what we were about to experience. And we both learned about this organization that helped us to start to understand investments, investing specifically with digital currency. But then also, you can't speak about digital currency without speaking about our current fungible currency. So that's dollars and cents. And through saying yes to that, it completely changed my world in terms of investment. Okay, so my accounts have grown because of the opportunity to receive advice from wealthy people who stood in this room that I didn't know were going to be there, because the universe already knows who, it knows when the event was, it knows where the event was taking place, it knows how it was going to happen. All I needed to do was to say yes and to show up. Okay, now, as a part of this, it's important to see it from the end, not just the manifestation that you want, but already see it from the end. So if you already have your manifestation, how would you now write your identity statements? So I want you to take a moment and just write three identity statements from the end goal. So this is the version of you that already has the manifestation that you wrote down. So now it's I am. Instead of I'm becoming or I'm beginning, now we can bring in the I am. So 3 future identity statements from the version of you that already has the manifestation. What would you be doing at this point? Are you teaching and helping others on how to achieve this? And if so, how? Are you actually going to in real life speaking engagements? Or are you doing virtual engagements? Are you creating content? Just take a moment and intentionally think about what happens after the manifestation. I am. And then a very specific statement. Remember, we want to stay away from generalized statements. That was one of the problems with affirmation statements in the manifestation process. We want to be as specific as possible. So imagine, what is this version of you doing? I'll give you another 30 seconds here. I am the person who I am now doing XYZ. What is it for your manifestation? I'm going to give one of my secrets away. Am I? Yeah, why not? So one for me in terms of fitness, right? I want, because it'll be great to come back and have this conversation again in 10 years. Or maybe it's less. But even 10 years for me now, because time is relative, is all perspective. And I do believe in divine time, and I'm lining up with this. But I absolutely love this. Is I have built the first AI powered fitness ecosystem. That's it. You don't even got to know what that means. I'm just letting you know that this is something that is not in my current reality, but I am steadfast in my faith that it's going to happen. And this is how I've written it down, seeing it from the end. I've already done it. And so it is. I see you, Phyllis. You can't wait. I'm eating healthy. Let's go. Okay. Me too. I'm actually changing that as well. That's something else that I'm doing in terms of my own fitness. In terms of my own fitness. I don't cook as much as I'd like to anymore. But my new desire and my new manifestation is not only to cook more, but is actually to use healthier ingredients to prepare my food. So I've taken some steps in seeking out some advice. Some really cool content has found me as a part of that as well. And so I've been diving into nutrition. I've learned a lot of the physical aspects of getting into shape and also enhancing longevity. And but let's be honest, a lot of that is nutrition, right? I say about 80% of it is actually nutrition. And there's a lot of terrible ingredients that sits on the shelves in the grocery stores, especially depending on the grocery stores you go to, if you go to a grocery store. And so I'm really looking forward to this new journey for 2026 and manifesting exactly what I initially desired. Okay, y'all. So as I was rambling, I hope you got your three, okay, your three future identity statements. I am, I have, I've done. It's complete. It's complete. Okay. So, why is this important? This is important because remember, this part of the exercise that we just done is the future self embodiment exercise, right? So we're embodying the manifestation, we're embodying the future version of ourselves that has already received. Okay? So what does this actually do for us in terms of the process of manifestation? Your nervous system learns to feel familiar with the identity you're stepping into each time you write like this. Each time you write like this. So when we have an initial manifestation that seems far-fetched, we're using identity statements that fills in the gap that so that it doesn't feel like a leap. I am becoming, I am beginning. And then once that feels good to us, because that's important, is not just the thought, is not just writing these statements. We have to feel it. Emotions is the frequency, emotions is vibration. So it helps us to align with the frequency. So we need to embody this emotion. So once we've done that, then we can write from our future selves. We can write from the end point. And doing this impresses the conscious mind, because when we write, we're doing that in the conscious mind. But now, as we're rehearsing our new versions of ourselves and rehearsing having our manifestation already, if we do this as we're going to sleep or as we're going into a meditation state, okay, we want the brain to be somewhere in what's called theta waves. Okay, so as we're doing this from a very relaxed state, right? So this is why most teachers would say to either do it from meditation or right before bed. Both work really well, but there's some people that don't meditate. And if that's you, you're going to use this as an affirmation as you're laying down in bed. Is that you're going to take one of these statements from the end and rehearse it, because your nervous system learns to make it feel familiar with the identity you're stepping into. So the subconscious mind's job is to do what? Express. So if their subconscious mind is familiar with the phrases, with the identity that you've been shifting into, then its job is to express that so that it is true in your reality. This is something that's key as well. You might have heard this before, maybe you haven't, but the subconscious mind does not know the difference between us experiencing something in our reality for real and us rehearsing it. It doesn't know the difference. Actors and actresses run into this a lot where they'll rehearse a role for a character in a movie, and then they have a hard time not playing that character anymore. Jim Carrey has ran into this a lot. He speaks about it quite often. Daniel Day-Lewis, who is a phenomenal actor who's won several Oscars, has also spoken about this. Tom Hanks. There's so many actors who have confirmed the challenges that they've had stepping out of the character role that they played in a movie because they rehearsed it so much that their conscious mind has been impressed, so their subconscious mind continued to express. Isn't that something? This is real, y'all. So, if your life is your movie, what character do you play? You get to choose every day. You get to choose, but whatever you choose it with intention and rehearse it. Rehearse it so much that it has to come into your existence and reality, because that's how it naturally works. You don't have to do anything else but this, is to rehearse it. So we're writing it down now. So this is a part of the exercise. We're already stepping into this future version of ourselves in this very moment. But now what I'm suggesting is that if you already meditate, that you're doing this as a part of your meditation. If you do not meditate, that's okay. I'm not here to convince you to start meditating, but we all go to sleep. And so before you go to bed at night, and if this is something that's new for you, we have to be mindful that this is a new habit, and new habits require for us to disrupt old habits, and then also to set up reminders, to set ourselves up for success, to remember to do the new thing, because we'll forget. We're already in a cycle. We already have a pattern of maybe brushing our teeth, having some water or having some tea, turning out the lights, getting into bed, getting under the covers, and just going to sleep. Okay. If that is the case, you have to disrupt that pattern, because you need to remind yourself to say at least one of your new identity statements or your embodiment statements before bed. So before you go to sleep, not just before bed, but like as you're going into sleep, as you know, your body's starting to relax and sink into the bed. And then your mind is beginning to relax from thinking about all of the things from the day. That the last thing that you do think about is this: the statement that you wrote down tonight of your future self. And you say that to yourself until you fall asleep. This is you impressing the conscious mind, which is going to send it down to your subconscious mind, which is going to be expressed into your reality. This is how manifestations work. Intentional manifestations. This is how it works. So when this happens, what feels familiar actually becomes safe now. It doesn't feel like a threat. It doesn't feel like fear, lack, scarcity, worry, or doubt. We're simply just rehearsing. And what feels safe becomes the new default to reality. It feels safe to take inspired action or to allow ourselves to say yes and no to opportunities that shows up that's aligned with what we're asking for. Okay. Now, that was number 2 in identity shifting tools. We're moving down to the third one. So here goes number 3. This is behavioral micro shifts. Behavioral is action based. Micro means small. We're taking small actions every day towards our manifestation because it is not enough to just want the thing. Faith without works is dead. So you can have all the faith in the world, but if you ain't taking no action, if you're saying no when you're supposed to be saying yes, or saying yes when you're supposed to be saying no, our manifestation cannot come into its fullest fruition and form. We need to take inspired action. And even when we don't feel inspired, if we know what the next step is and we can do it now, we want to do it now because it just helps us to align with the frequency faster. Remember when I talked about frequency earlier tonight, I described it as listening to a radio station. If you're on FM, trying to listen to music on AM is impossible unless you press the button or flip the switch and make the change, right? You want to make the change. And sometimes when you press the button, or if you still have a knob, a dial to turn on a radio station, you hear what? Static before you get to that station. Okay, so that static is going to be the small shifts towards the manifestation. Okay, it's still aligned though. We're still taking the steps towards our manifestation. It's alignment. So these micro shifts are small, manageable actions taken in alignment with your desired identity. They retrain the subconscious that this is who I am now. This is who I am now. This is who I am now. So for me, as a part of my fitness journey, once I fully stepped into the identity of becoming healthier, I started to have to turn down foods that I knew would go against my fitness goals. Even today, I had to do that. I had a photo shoot earlier today, and I was so grateful that the marketing team actually bought everyone lunch. And as a part of buying lunch, they also bought beverages. And the beverages they bought, which the lunch was great. I was very appreciative of the food. It's most things that I was okay with eating. But the beverages were all soda. It was Schweppes, it was Pepsi. Okay. And while occasionally some of those things might be okay with me, it's very rare. Like at this point, it's not something that I buy, so it's not something that I have, and it's really in my home. So it's very easy for me to not have soda. And actually, when I want a carbonated drink, I make it. I just make it myself because you can. Like you can make it, and you making it yourself is, if not 100, almost 100 times healthier than you purchasing it. So what I've noticed in looking at one of my favorite beverages, Schweppes Ginger Ale, is that it is loaded with processed sugar. Loaded with, like a third of this thing is just sugar. It's like Kool-Aid. Remember Kool-Aid? You put the water in the jug and then you pour half of the Domino bag and the Kool-Aid powder into the jug. Okay. It's basically that is water, sugar, artificial and natural flavors, which y'all, I'm not even gonna get into what that means. But even that stuff, okay, is synthetic ingredients, it's fake. So all of these things, I know it's going against my goal. And so I saw one of my favorite beverages sitting on that table today, and that was a Schweppes ginger ale. Okay. And it's so interesting to even think about being tempted by it, not even being tempted, just to think about it. Like, do I want that? Do I want that? Easily, I was able to remember my goal, remember all of the sugar that's loaded up with this thing, right? Knowing that natural flavors actually means it's a chemical that makes you want to continue to eat or drink something, right? So sometimes it's like, oh man, this is so good. And you end up finishing the whole thing before you finish your meal. Yeah, it's a chemical that's meant to actually add this addiction to it in the moment, right? So all of these things came to my mind. I'm like, oh, that doesn't align with who I am, though. Easy. It was an easy no. I was offered, had the opportunity to say yes or no, decided to say no. Okay. So this is a micro action. Small actions like this allows us to experience our manifestation in its fullest form, or at least to lead to the bigger actions. So these manageable actions needs to be in alignment with our desired identity. I identify myself as someone who is fairly healthy because I make conscious decisions around my health. Okay. So it is more aligned with me to drink water or to make my own beverages than to drink processed manufactured beverages that I know is not going to align with my goals. And I might be sorry later. That's it. Okay. So this is who I am now. So who are you as a part of your manifestation? Okay. What small actions can you take in alignment with your desired identity? And I'm going to give you some examples here. And then I want you to write anywhere between 1 to 3 things. 3, if it comes to you naturally, it's fine. But if you can try to at least get one thing on your page tonight, that'd be great. So here's some examples, right? Let's just say if your future self meditates daily, right? I mentioned that. So this is someone who doesn't meditate, but maybe you're considering meditation. If your future self meditates then, right? Daily, then the small action, instead of meditating for an hour, is to meditate for 3 minutes. Even if it's 15 minutes, 15 minutes can be a lot for someone, right? Maybe it's just a 60-second pause, intentional breathing, intentional presence. Wherever you're at currently is fine. It's your journey. You know yourself best. You know what you can and cannot do in this moment, meaning that cannot meaning like that's too big of a leap, right? So what can you do? We're not focusing on what we can't do. We're focused on what we can do, right? So even for some of my clients, because I also teach meditation, even for some of my clients who's had challenging times with meditation and sitting, there's a myth that there's only one way to meditate, and that's through sitting, and that's not the case. There's also walking meditation, which is actually my favorite. So go for a walk, right? So what can you do? That's one example. If your future self is fit and healthy, take a 10-minute walk daily or every other day or once a week. If you're not walking at all, right? If you're not walking at all every week, start with 10 minutes once a week. What's possible for you? If your future self is wealthy, check your bank accounts with love instead of fear. I used to be fearful to open up my bank account, my Chase app. I was like, "Oh God, what's gonna happen?" And it's so interesting. One of my favorite mentors, his name is Myron Golden. He's a virtual mentor of mine. He he would talk. He's a very wealthy man, and he didn't start from wealth, right? Most wealthy people don't. They're self-made millionaires, okay? And he went from making $6.25 an hour to making several millions of dollars in weeks. So much so now that his future self says that wealth has a need for speed. Wealth doesn't wait. This is the concept that I want y'all to understand, because I finally got it. And once I got it, I was like, man, now the manifestations just roll in. And so it makes so much sense. It's not the manifestation, it's our alignment. It's the way that we're perceiving it, right? It's the way that we're perceiving it. So if I'm looking at my Chase app and I'm scared by what I'm going to see, chances are that that is my dominant vibration. And so wealth is very far for me. And it has been for several years, because this is how I was viewing it. And it took a really long time to be able to open that app and then be like, even if it was at zero, or sometimes it was at a negative, to not feel fear. Now, which I have several accounts, right? But if I open up one of my accounts and I see that it's overdrafted, my first reaction is no longer, oh man, I'm negative again, or feeling bad. Now it's, thank you, Chase, for covering that bill for me. I'm overdrafted because the bank covered something for me. And I already know how to make that money back, that I'm going to make that money back. I'm not worried about those things. So money replenishes itself. The only thing that doesn't replenish itself is time. And we don't have time to waste. We need to line up with our manifestation. So my love now for my accounts, even if they're overdrafted, is thank you, Chime, for covering that tab for me. I went out with my friends, and there's a particular card that I use when I go out and spent the money. I'm glad it went through. I'd rather it go through than to be embarrassed at the table that I couldn't actually pay my part of the tab. Overdraft is a beautiful thing to me now. Now, this is not a concept that I'm telling you to adopt for yourself. I'm giving you my experience, and the this took me years to shift my mindset to even utter words like this, to say it to you. But let me tell you, the ease and the flow that I feel now, to not be stressed out about my accounts or about money replenishing itself, knowing that it will. And so when it does, now I give another thank you. I'm just full of gratitude most of the time. Thank you. My accounts replenish itself. Thank you. My accounts are overdrafted. Thank you for covering that. Like, and this is why it's important to be specific, right? Because we're not just going to say thank you for overdraft. I want you to understand that I would much rather be up to date with my accounts with other people that I have a debt to, knowing that my account's going to replenish itself in due time, and to be steadfast and faithful. And let me tell you something, y'all. Every single time going forward now, since I've been practicing this and rehearsing this, money comes in fast. And sometimes it's not this boatload of money, right? It's not this big, boisterous amount of money, right? Sometimes it's a few bucks, and still, I'm grateful. I'm so happy. I went from overdraft to now being 40 plus in my bank account. That feels good. That actually feels better than the negative 40 that was there, or the negative 5, or whatever the case may be. I kid you not. I kid you not. I wasn't in overdraft a few moments ago, but I literally got an alert on my account, on one of my accounts. What time was that? 2 hours ago. My sister Zelled me some money, that I didn't even realize that she owed me. I didn't even know she owed me some money. I didn't even know. Like, what is this for? The whole purpose is that we need to be in the frequency of currency. If that's your manifestation, that's mine. Mine is prosperity. Mine is wealth. That is one of my manifestations that I'm actively rehearsing and constantly stepping into this new identity with and for. So much so now that money's coming and I don't even know what it's for. I and it's wonderful because now I get to practice the rest of these things that I've written down, right? Where one of my goals is to be able to multiply my dollars at least by 2 before spending one. And now I have the opportunity to do that. Not even with money that I was expecting to receive today. I wasn't expecting this money today. Didn't know. So I say all that to say it's important to take these micro shifts. Okay. So, one of the micro shifts in your action steps is going to be rehearsing. So, your future self, for the manifestation that you wrote down, if your future self owns XYZ, has XYZ, is XYZ, or does XYZ, what is the following statement that you can start with now? And let's say now is, I mean, now you're already doing it right now by being a part of this conversation, but let's say tomorrow. So what small action can you take tomorrow that is walking you towards your manifestation? Small, micro. What small action? What small action? Is it listening to a podcast so that you can learn more information? Is it texting a friend that might have told you they had a reference to someone who can help you out with a particular thing? Is it visiting a space that you would like to move into or you'd like to own? Okay. Is it a car that you want to have? Can you go and test drive it tomorrow or this week? And that doesn't cost you nothing. You know, you could go and test drive a car. Go and test drive a Porsche, like whatever car you want. It's all good. What is one micro action you can take tomorrow? And let's talk about why this works. Micro shifts bypass overwhelm, like the one that I spoke about when I used to open my bank accounts. But it builds proof that your identity is changing. Sometimes I'm still astounded by the things that come out of my mouth, the things that I say to myself now, because I was such a different person just 5 years ago. These micro shifts creates a compounding effect because identity, y'all, is reinforced through consistent behavior, consistent action, consistent rehearsing, not dramatic overnight changes like those lottery winners that I mentioned earlier. You can win the lottery in the instant and you can lose all that money in an instant, especially because you didn't take the action steps to shift into a new identity. So now that you've gotten your micro shift that you're going to take action on tomorrow, and this is a non negotiable, if for any reason you cannot take this shift tomorrow, your next step is to reschedule it. Do not let your actions fall through the cracks. If there's ever a day that I can't get to the gym, let's just say because I have a cold, I know already when I'm feeling better which day I'm going and what time. That does not slip through the cracks for me. Okay? If my wealth content creator is hosting a live event I plan to go to it. If for any reason I miss it, I'm looking for the replay. I even have reached out to the team before to receive um to receive a playback from it. Okay, that's how important it is to me. So don't let this slip through the cracks. If for any reason you cannot take this action tomorrow, you will reschedule it, but you're not rescheduling it because you don't feel like doing it. It's only if you actually have something impede or block you from doing this action. We want to start right away because it helps us to step into the frequency faster. Now, let's talk about the subconscious reprogramming again. There's a few things that I need you to know. You manifest from the subconscious, right? I've explained that. The subconscious mind's job is to express. You manifest from the subconscious. As a part of this, y'all, your past identity may block the new reality. I mentioned this earlier, and now we're going to elaborate here. Whatever current identity you have that has blocked a manifestation you've been waiting on already is blocking your new reality that needs to come to the surface. It can no longer stay in the subconscious mind. We need to make ourselves conscious and aware of our blocks. And we want to be able to start to shift our identity. And the way to do that is by eliminating and replacing any limiting beliefs that says you cannot achieve or do something or have something or be something because of some outside circumstance. There are no external circumstances that blocks you from your manifestations. It's only your frequency. That's it. So while one person may find something challenging and struggle at it, your neighbor may not. And we might make up some narrative of why they're able to achieve their manifestations and we're not. And that is no longer okay. It's not because they're a different demographic. It's not because of the way that they grew up. It's not because of the job that they have. Outside circumstances do not determine whether we achieve our manifestations or not. There's only one thing that does, and that is frequency, and that is law. That is by universal law, which none of us have control over. Universal law is order by source. And so, with understanding that, I need you guys to hear me. The only thing that blocks you from your manifestations is yourself. It is a limiting belief that you hold about yourself, about the world, or some other circumstance that is holding you back from it. Nothing more, nothing less. So let's bring it to the surface. Let's eradicate it. Let's change it. Let's reframe it to whatever else feels true to the future identity of ourselves that already has the manifestation because it already exists. We have the proof because we have the desire. Okay. Then we have to rewrite subconscious scripts. I gave a bunch of subconscious scripts that I've grown up in my household with that I had to reframe. It's so funny. I heard one today, which it wasn't in my house. So I was like, wow, just because I was talking about it yesterday, here it comes, right? Because the subconscious mind job is to express itself. So it was almost like a test. I said it yesterday during our conversation for day one. One of the statements that I heard today that I expressed yesterday was when it rains, no, sorry. When it rains, it pours. Now, in my household growing up, whenever this was said, it was negative. So interesting today, y'all. I heard it while I was at the photo shoot today. One of my peers said it, but when she said it, she was saying it in a positive aspect. And I was like, oh, that's a cool reframe. I didn't even think about reframing that concept itself to make it mean something positive. I just don't use it. I stopped using it once I realized that it was one of the subconscious scripts, when I realized it was a limiting belief that I had. but everything has perspective. There's always two sides, right? Everything is relative, right? These are universal laws. And so I heard it today in a positive light, and I was like, oh snap. That is another way to use it. Now, I'm not going to. I still choose not to, but this is something that we want to be mindful of, is reframing the scripts that we tell ourselves already. If you are saying I can't, you are limiting yourself and you need to rewrite that script. If you are using the words I cannot, you want to rewrite that script. It is a limiting belief. There's nothing that you can't do unless you tell yourself you can't do it. My favorite quote is by Henry Ford, and it goes along to something of the lines of, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Doesn't matter whether you can or can't. They're relative. It's only your inner truth that you are telling yourself. So we need to start to become more aware of our self dialogue, and also when we're speaking to others. Okay. A lot of times when we start to get into a flow of a conversation, we're not even listening to the words that's coming out of our mouths and realizing that it is a limiting belief, and we need to rewrite that script. And then we want to integrate that new belief that we just reframed or adopted until it feels true. Feels true. Remember, it's not just the words. It's not just the words. I learned this the hard way. I used to write affirmations pages long, 2 pages long, 2 columns. I would write affirmations without the feeling. And so the manifestation didn't show up, or it took a long time to show up, because the feeling is what generates the vibration for the frequency behind the thought. So it's not just a thought, it needs to the belief, which is a thought. A belief is a reoccurring thought. That's it. Doesn't matter. So people have different beliefs about religion. It's just a reoccurring thought that you have about that religion. There's nothing more and nothing less. It's not about right and wrong. It's just a pattern of thought that we practice. Okay? So a new belief, which is a new thought, needs to feel true. So this means that we need to do things to make it feel true. So this next slide is about self-conscious language upgrade, right? I just mentioned self-dialogue. And when we're talking to others, it is so important that we are now being more mindful about when we're speaking and how we're speaking. And because we're aware of this now, you'll start to pick this up, and it might be slow at first. That's okay. This might be the initial point of what's called inertia. Inertia is having no movement to starting to move, right? So when you're in a car and you take your foot off the gas, the car starts to move a little bit, right? But it doesn't eventually just speed up on its own to 20, 30, 40, 50 miles per hour. You have to put your foot on the gas, right? So you're going to allow yourself to some grace while you gain some momentum here. But self-concept, language upgrade, the way that you speak to yourself and the way that you speak to others about yourself needs to change into the new version that you're stepping into. It doesn't just need to change. We're being specific, remember. It needs to change into the new version of yourself that you're stepping into. So some examples that I have here from you. We're going to go from I always mess up to I'm learning to trust my decisions. And these are just examples. If it doesn't feel true for you, you're not going to use it because it doesn't feel true. You have to find the things that feel true to you. But if you're a person that always messes up, guess what you're going to continue to be if you are using this kind of dialogue? You have no choice but to continue to be the person who always mess up, because you have just affirmed and confirmed that at the same time. Okay. So we need to change that. So even if you notice this, that you're saying this to someone else, y'all, in conversation, you're going to change it right away, whether it's within yourself or even if you start again while you're talking to that person. I do that now. I don't even care. I don't care what people think about me and how I change it. I actually It's so interesting. I used to think that people would think that I was weird for that, but people actually stop and pay attention to me doing this. I will start again. If I said something that I no longer align with because it is not the version or the new identity that I am assuming, I will start my sentence again. And people respect that. They actually mostly just stay quiet because they're paying attention. Like most people don't do this. so this is something new for people. So you'll actually find that you're teaching others how to also improve their dialogue with themselves too, and dialogue with others. So I go from I always mess up to I'm learning to trust my decisions. I gave an example of this with me yesterday when I was in the shower one time. I had dropped something and I said, of course. I realized in a moment that I had the expectation of messing up, dropping something, making a mistake. And I affirmed it by saying, of course. And then I said to myself, oh, why did I say of course? Doesn't even matter anymore of why. I'm changing it. And so I'm more mindful of that dialogue. Example number 2 from love is hard for me, especially if you are manifesting your a specific person or your partner. You're going to go from love is hard for me to I'm opening up to healthy connections. Maybe, just maybe, you can feel how love can be easy for you because you should know what ease looks like for your relationships. I'm just going to say that spend time and actually thinking about it. Like you don't just want to say love is easy. What does easy mean? What does easy look like? And if you think about that for yourself, right? If you start to envision that for yourself, you can also find a pathway to a feeling. And if you can find a pathway to the feeling, that means you're stepping into the frequency of the love that you're asking for. Then we go from I struggle with money to I'm becoming financially grounded. You see, I'm becoming, that's that identity statement, the softer one, not the huge jump. If this is you, you're going to stop struggling with money right now. No more. You're not struggling with money. You're becoming the person who is financially grounded. Every day you're making steps to find grounded. So for the middle, for me, when I spoke about looking at my bank accounts and then getting really upset about it or being really fearful to even open it, right? The middle portion for me was finding ways to ground. Taking a deep breath before I did it, rehearsing the statements that I already had written down that I was going to intentionally rehearse before doing that, right? Before opening up my apps to check my bank account, right? I struggle with money too. I'm becoming financially grounded, knowing that I'm doing all of this work so that I could feel better about it. And y'all, it worked. I ain't gonna hold you. It worked. Okay. Your words become instructions to the subconscious mind. You need to tell it what to do. Otherwise, it's going to continue to run the program that you've already been on so far. Now we're in the process of reprogramming. When your language shifts, your intentional identity begins to shift with it. This is law. It absolutely happens. This is not an if, and, or but. If you do this, you will be successful in intentional manifestations. Next, here's a few other tools that helps with subconscious reprogramming. I am going to, for those of you who signed up for VIP package, which means that you're in the studio with me right now and on StreamYard, you will receive this via email by Monday. Okay, so you're going to receive these tools that I've used already, but otherwise, feel free if you're watching anywhere else that you can look up some of these tools and try them and see which ones resonate for you. But here goes some mind-based tools. I also have some body tools, and in a moment I'll show you some emotional tools, and then we're pretty much done and ready to get started, okay? So, some mind-based tools Now, affirmations I mentioned, I've done that. I've written down affirmations in my book before even feeling about them. I've done them during the day, I've done them during the night. But have here nighttime affirmations. And what I'm speaking about, aside from writing, because writing is powerful, but what I found is actually it penetrates the subconscious mind faster, is audio affirmations. And not just audio affirmations that you're listening to someone else say, but audio affirmations in your own voice because your subconscious mind knows your own voice. And why nighttime? Once again, right before bed or on your way to sleepland, your body and your conscious mind starts to relax and it goes into theta state. And when it does, so again, you could actually do this during meditation as well. It doesn't have to be in the nighttime, but I've used it in the nighttime and it's been successful. So that's why I'm mentioning it here. But you listen to your affirmations that you wrote down, right? The 5 to 10 I'm becoming statements. And then you're going to increase, I believe I had you write down 3 future identity statements. You're going to increase that to 10 as well. Place it in the audio. Put if you can tolerate having earbuds in your ears right before bed and listening to your affirmation in your own voice right before bed and then go to sleep. This penetrates the subconscious mind so quickly. So you begin to really step into this new identity, so much so that when you go into the next day, like things that used to be okay with you the previous day is no longer okay because it doesn't align with this version of yourself that you're stepping into. So nighttime audio affirmations is a great mind-based tool. Also sensory visualization. So I mentioned being able to be on a Puerto Rico's beach right from my mind, right? I close my eyes and I can see it too, so I can visualize it. I mentioned all of the things that I can hear and I can see it too, but sensory. So in our conscious state, which is right now where we could see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, if we could add some stimulation to our senses, it helps for us to vibrate on the frequency of our manifestation. So for me, if I actually want to take a trip to Puerto Rico and I actually want to be on Puerto Rico's beach, I might find a piece of content that plays ocean waves, that plays Spanish music, right? So you're going to align some type of sensory stimulation with visualization. This does not need to be a long visualization. I usually set out to do this for 5 minutes and I easily slip into a 10-minute meditation or visualization because it's honestly it feels so good. And remember, feeling is the secret. It's not just a thought. We need the feeling too. So you want to find something that's going to stimulate your sensory during a visualization exercise. So this requires you to close your eyes. This is not necessarily like while you're driving or walking. If it has to be, that's okay. But it bears more weight in terms of faster manifestation if you can do it with your eyes closed. Unless the sensory that you're using is visual, then that's fine, right? So maybe you're looking at, well, maybe I'm looking at different beaches of Puerto Rico. Ooh, right? When I find a different beach, I've been to San Juan's beach, but I haven't looked at Puerto Plata and other beaches, right? So I might look at other beaches and use that as sensory stimulation as well for my visualization. So that is okay. But anything else that doesn't require the use of your eyes, try closing your eyes and feeling a thing, smelling a thing, tasting a thing, and hearing a thing. The other mind based tools are from the end scripting, which we did a little bit of today. That is your I am. Your I am statements might be too big of a jump if you don't truly believe it yet. So you use your identity statement, I am becoming or I am beginning to. And then after that, you can use your I am seeing yourself with the manifestation already here. That is the end. With the manifestation here, that's already the end. So for me, I'm actually not how sure I am that I want a car anymore, because I actually like to be driven around. I'm not gonna lie. But um when I was deeply thinking about manifesting a car, I would see not just the type of car that I wanted, but in first person, I see my hands on the steering wheel. Anytime I go to a store that has car air fresheners, I smell them and I think about which one I would have in my car. Right? So we see it from the end. So now I see either I'm going to have the one that dangles from the rear view mirror, or I'm going to have the one that plugs into the lighter, or I'm going to have the one that plugs into the air vent. That's the end. We see it from the end. It's already there. And now I can see the color. It's gray, right? Now I can see the interior of the car. I can see all of the colors. Well, even as I'm thinking about the air freshener, if it was to dangle from the rearview mirror, it's black. I don't know what scent that is, but that's just what popped up into my mind. We want to see it from the end because it puts us in the frequency. That's why. Not because it needs to be black, not because it needs to be in the air vent or hanging from the rearview mirror. None of that matters. What matters is that we already see ourselves with the manifestation in its fullest form. Cognitive reframing and thought tracking, we spoke about this. And like I told you, we might be moving from the point of inertia where you're not paying this much attention to your self dialogue, but you need to. You have to pay attention. You are revealing to yourself and to others your limiting beliefs. So you want to pay attention to your self dialogue. You want to pay attention to the way that you're speaking to others about yourself. And anything that does not align with the version that you're stepping into needs to be reframed. So we need to thought track what keeps coming up for you. So again, for me, with the whole money thing and the bank account thing, my thought pattern was every time I come to my apps that I am fearful. I'm scared of lack. I'm scared of scarcity. That was my thought tracking. And so that gave me the opportunity to reframe those thoughts. Okay. Then there's pattern interruptions. Anytime you find that there is a pattern of thought that does not serve you, you want to interrupt it once again by creating a new frame of thought. So you're eliminating one belief and bringing in a new one that aligns with your future, present, new self. Next, body based tools. So, real quick, the breath lets you know that you're alive. It's important for many reasons. The breath is what brings you into this world. Okay. I know any of my parents in the room will know this and can confirm this, right? If you've ever been to a Lamaze class, you know this. The breath is important to life. Okay. Breath work is important. And some breath work that's really great for the manifestation process is somatic release practices. Releasing, once again, any beliefs that do not serve you, but also with somatic breath practices like box breathing, it also allows the body to relax. Remember, we want to be in a relaxed state when we're reprogramming the subconscious mind. So breathing, you could do somatic breathing practices through a meditation. You could do it through brief pauses throughout the day. Even 60 seconds counts. Okay. And then also what's called EFT tapping. So, especially at times where we get knocked out of our practice, like we're not always going to be in this state where we're intentionally focused on our manifestation. We do we do want to be as much as possible, but it's not possible because you're going to start to do something else that requires your attention. And so if ever you get knocked off of that high horse, right? And we're noticing that we're triggered, that we're fearful, that we're doubtful, that we're worried, we need to regulate our nervous system. We have to come out of that. And the faster we do, the better. The faster we do, the better. And it is these tools right here are actually your first go-to. These need to be in your toolbox that you pull out right away. Because I got to be honest with you. Sometimes, most times, calling a friend or a family member and then talking about it for long periods of time about why you're upset or why you're worried or why you're doubtful or fearful is not helpful. And here's why. It might be helpful in our mind state, but here's why it's not helpful to the manifestation. Because while we're talking about the problem, we're practicing the frequency of the problem. And so anytime we are long-term rehearsing something, it is becoming our dominant vibration. Just like I gave you the example earlier of the actors who have had challenging times coming out of the character that they played in a role because they spent so much time rehearsing the frequency of the character. It's not different. It's the same. Now, if you absolutely need to, you want to seek mentorship, you want to seek advice, just be mindful about how you're speaking about it. Because sometimes just explaining the problem over and over to multiple people, right, is not helpful. You're just practicing the vibration of the problem. So, guess what has to continue to exist in your reality? The problem. So we want to be constructive and intentional when we're speaking about something. The dialogue is really, really important. It's important, y'all. So I highly encourage that you actually try one of these tools first before actually conversing with people. It actually also it's enhanced my communication. So it also helps you to improve your communication as well in terms of how you speak to people, how you speak about things once you actually take the time to calm down first and then respond, not reaction, response. Okay, finally, here are some energetic and emotional tools. So we already spoke about some of these. I'm just going to remind us about a few. Meditation. If this is not completely out of the question for you, I highly encourage that you try meditations to be in the states, the mental states of your future present self that you're stepping into, this new identity. You want to do guided meditations and stillness meditations. Just relaxing is a vibration and a frequency that helps to bring your manifestation to you faster so that you can notice it, so that you can be aware of it. Inner child work. Some of us need to go deep in something, especially something that's reoccurring. When we see patterns and cycles, and it's not just as easy as saying, I'm becoming this person too, or I'm believing this now, right? Sometimes there's things that's deeply rooted. Like my money problems that I used to have was inner child work. Like I told you, I had concepts that I grew up with that I used to hear in my household, and then I used to repeat them. And it took a while to notice like how much this affected me, right? Because it wasn't just the phrases, it went all the way to the lack and the scarcity that I would have to even look at my bank accounts. It went all the way to when I was making six figures working in retail that I couldn't manage my money. So, boom, gone quickly, just like the lottery winners that I talked about. So, we sometimes it does require for us to go deeper into the current identity in order to reframe it. And that's okay. You're going to notice which ones these are because it's going to keep showing up. And it's going to show up very strongly as you are calling in this particular manifestation. Sleep reprogramming, I just spoke to you about. Subliminals, use your own voice. You're going to record your affirmations, both the identity statements and then the future embodiment statements that we went over and that we did some today. And you're going to play those on a loop on an audio. It's fine to do it before bed. It's fine to do it right before bed. It is helpful if you use earbuds versus just having it on out loud. But if that's not comfortable or that's not feasible for you, because maybe you sleep with a spouse, that's fine. Do what you can. Movement, one of my favorites, okay? The body needs to be in the frequency as well, not just the thoughts. You have to physically get into the frequency too. Dancing, stretching, walking also raises your frequency. Okay. This is not a maybe. This is science. This is fact. Okay. Moving your body physically helps to raise your frequency. That is why if you go to the gym or you do enough exercises, you will see a physical change in your body. It's not different for your manifestation of a car, of a home, of a piece of land, for a partner. It's not different. So you want to find, I have created a playlist that I absolutely love. It's called My Morning Ritual, and that one sets me on fire. And I start off my mornings having a great day. Okay. I don't let I it's very rare that I have bad mornings is because music is a high vibration already. Okay. But choose songs that are power songs for you that already move you. Choose your favorites, put them in a playlist, listen to them. Even if you just listen to them, much less if you want to dance to them. I still dance in the mirror at home in my room. That's my thing. I love dancing. So that's cool for me. Stretching, whatever you can do. Okay. Remember the micro shifts? This is it. Do what you can. Music that matches the emotion of your future self is helpful. So not only do I have my morning ritual playlist, I also have a money playlist. Okay. I see you, Phyllis, doing some EFT tapping right now. Let's go, girl. Okay. That's it. You got it. So that is the energetic and emotional tools. These are the tools that's going to help you to embody and align with your new version of yourself, with this new identity. You're not just acting like your future self today. You're currently in dress rehearsal. You are the actor of your life. You're the main character. You are in dress rehearsal. Okay. So you're going to dress like your future self, like I am today. I literally now, I used to be at a point where I'm just like, whatever. I don't care what I wear when I step outside. But that has changed because of the identity that that I'm shifting into. And this version of myself actually does care, even if it's just going to the store. It matters to me. Started to declutter and clear out a lot of clothes that do not align with my future self. Would I wear this as my future self? No. So guess what? That gotta go. So now I'm only wearing the clothes that does align with that. Literally dressed like your future self starting from today. Small habits anchor big manifestations. Remember that micro shift that you committed to for tomorrow? Get it done. It's going to add up. Small wins always lead to big wins. Nothing is overnight. Nothing is overnight. And frequency based behaviors versus resistance based behaviors. Listen, resistance is going to come up. That's okay. That's a part of life. It's actually it's not just a part of life, it's a part of the universal law. Okay. Everything has two sides. Laws of polarity. Where there's good, there's bad. And where there's bad, there's good. We wouldn't even know the difference between the two unless there was two. Everything has two sides. So this is not about avoiding resistance. This is not about avoiding challenges when they come up or being like, oh man, now my manifestation is not coming because this challenge is here. This thing is blocking me. Remember, there is no outside circumstance that's blocking you. It's only frequency. So each time resistance comes up, which is just a vibration, it's just noticing something that we don't like or we don't want to be here. And when we notice that at the same time, simultaneously, we move from the resistance end, we have the opportunity to move to a higher frequency. It is us that gets to choose to stay here. That's why I said it's so important to be mindful about your dialogue. Stop calling up your friends right away and your family members to just talk about the situation, especially if you're not going to ask, what do you think about that? What do you think I should do? Or do you have any advice? You want to be constructive about your conversations going forward. All of them, because we don't want to add resistance. We don't want to keep adding fuel to the flame that we're trying to put out. We want to put out that flame, and we want to ignite the one that matters to us, that matters to the manifestation. So we want to be frequency based. When resistance comes up, it's just letting us know that not only do we not prefer this thing and not like this thing, but now we actually need to regulate our nervous system. That is a sign when resistance comes up that we need to regulate our nervous system. The somatic breathing practices, the EFT tapping, the breath work, even if it's just taking 60 seconds to pause and not react and to thoughtfully respond, right? So that the most auspicious outcome can happen, the most favorable thing that can happen so that we can get closer to our desire comes closer to us. And with that, my friends, manifestations are nothing more than lining up with the frequency of what you want, which already exists. The moment you have the desire, it is the very indication that it's yours. So now we know, okay, well, this means that I get to come from this step to the next step. I'm not on this step because I'm here noticing my desire. My desire is here. So now I just need to line up with the frequency of that by doing all of the things that we talked about over this 2-day workshop. I so appreciate you for all joining me. I wish you, and not only just wish you the best, and watching your manifestations appear even faster if you follow what, just try it. Just try it. My joy is experimenting with things and seeing whether they work out or not. Like I told you, I already made all the mistakes for you. I made the mistakes for 15 years. Okay? I see what works now. I get it. So my only intention was to bring to you what has worked for me, and to not only hope that it works for you, but to know that it does, and to know that the only reason it won't work for you is if you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. Okay. So I just want you to try it, experiment with these things. And when you have questions, you have me. Let's talk. Let's stay connected. Don't let this be the last time that we come together. For those of you who have purchased this workshop, you're going to receive a tool set from me in your email by Monday. The reason why there's a gap right now is because you don't need everything all at once. I need you to work on the assignments that I already gave you. You're going to create a full identity statement list of 10. I am becoming, I am beginning to. You are stepping into the new version of yourself with your new identity statements. You're going to record them in audios. If you don't record them in the audio, then it's okay to say them out loud. Again, for those who are like, nah, listening to audios are not for me for the nighttime. Well, after you write them down, you're going to say them out loud before you get into bed. And even if you just remember one, you're going to repeat it as you're going to sleep. Okay. Then you have your embodiment statements, seeing it from the end. So the version of you that already has the manifestation, what are they saying about it now? Because it changes. It's going to be different. You go from manifesting a thing to having a thing. So now, what do you do with it? So you're going to create a list of 10 embodiment statements. It's okay if that takes time. That's why I'm giving you the 2 days to finish this list, to say it out loud and rehearse it, or put it in an audio and listen to it on a loop or at least once before bedtime or during bedtime, so that you could begin to step into this new version of yourself that needs to be in order for you to experience your manifestation. Okay. Then you're going to build your emotional toolbox. Which one of these tools do you think resonated for you as we were speaking about it tonight? Or maybe you already do them, but have you made it specific to the manifestation you wrote down? If you don't have a manifestation, a meditation that's specific to your manifestation, then we want to create one. And if it's not even us creating one in our own voice, maybe we find one. YouTube is great. Whatever is going to put us in the state of believing and knowing that is ours. Okay. We need to practice those. So we're going to just begin by rehearsing. And then I'm going to release to you my full kit for you to pick ones and to try it and try them for the next 30 days. You will begin to see a shift within 2025. You have these tools for 2025. The end by 1 year from now, 2026, I can't wait to hear about the transformation that takes place for you. And I will see you at the end of 2026, God's willing. Again, my name is Shayna by Shayna Creates. I'm so grateful for you to join me. You get to watch this playback as well on my YouTube channel, Shayna Creates, all one word. So you can listen to this again, my friends. And until next time, I will see you later. Peace. Have a beautiful night.